So there we are, ladies and gentlemen, those two iconic shapes. Both aircraft that were so important, equally important during the Battle of Britain that was being fought out in the skies over here 75 years ago. And the aircraft leading, the Mark II Spitfire, is a Battle of Britain veteran. This aircraft was with, I've forgotten the squadron off the top of my head, but it flew from Hornchurch and at one point was shot down. It had a bullet through the radiator and had to come in and land.
Now this is, I believe, the oldest flying Spitfire in the world.
This is indeed, this is the 14th aircraft off the Castle Bromwich production line. The Mark I obviously was the first in service, and the numbers needed a great big new factory. They needed to build this great factory, and they took the opportunity to slightly redesign the Spitfire for ease of production and to get a bit more performance out of it. That was the Mark II that you see in front of you now, which was in service from the middle of 1940.
And saw combat.
This actual aircraft is a combat veteran from the Battle of Britain and still has the bullet holes to prove it.
Fascinating view there for you, ladies and gentlemen, as well as no obvious to see that the difference in the elliptical wing shape of the...
is a very important aeroplane in Dunsfold's history. This is the last of the many, PZ-865, the last of some 14,000 Hurricanes that were built. This aeroplane was retained by workers, it never served in the RAF, and by then they were putting 20mm cannon into the wings. You can tell those because the barrels stick proud of the leading edge. Throughout the war, more and more powerful engines were fitted. There was a quantum leap in performance when the two-stage supercharged Merlin 60 series was bolted onto the front of a Mark V to make the Mark IX, and that was the aeroplane that really kicked the backside of the Focke-Wulf 190s. There is heat being generated from the engine coolant in there. It actually provides as much thrust as it has drag, so it has no effect on the aerodynamics of the Spitfire whatsoever. Much later in the war, the Spitfires were fitted with the Griffin engine from the Mark XII onwards. That was a 36-litre engine against the 27 litres in the Merlin. It is said that regardless of how good a Spitfire sounds from the outside, when you're in the cockpit it sounds like the engine's just about to fail. Whereas when you're flying the Griffin engine Spitfire, it sounds like the engine already has failed. It was a problem. This aircraft had just 85 gallons. They say that there is no such thing as a truly slow roll in a Spitfire because you've only got an hour and a half's fuel. And that is a testament to how good it was to handle. The Mona Dam, the day was great. It was also a photo reconnaissance Spitfire that discovered that the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau had slipped out of Brest and were heading for the Channel. By the time of the last Mark, the Spitfire, the Mark 24, it had over double the horsepower and well over 3 times the armament. Now in the late 1960s or the early 70s, it was rumoured this aeroplane was going to be retired and pushed into the RAF museum, which would have been a travesty. They already had Hurricanes. So one day Duncan Simpson took it upon himself to jump into this aeroplane, have somebody in the company Dove follow him. He flew to RAF Coltesall, where he got out of the aeroplane, handed over the paperwork and said, there you go, here's your new aeroplane, to the Battle of Britain Memorial flight. And it's been on charge with them ever since. Late 1941-42, it was really outclassed in the skies over Europe. It had reached the end of its development potential and was relegated to second-line duties such as ground attack and artillery support. But they went on to fly throughout the war, giving very, very valuable service low down in support of the armies in North Africa and, of course, right across the Far East. The Hurricane was really an earlier generation of the Spitfire. It was maintainable with hand tools. The Spitfire used the brand new construction technique of the all-metal monocoque, and that proved a lot of problems to get it into production initially. Being repaired after its in-flight fire that it had earlier in the season with the Dakota and the 2 chipmunks. So go ahead and pay them a visit.
Melvin, the classic finish with the...
They needed to increase in value significantly and before they were worth repairing.